Hey everyone, welcome back to ThinkScript. Great to have you here. My name is Mike Fairborn. Looking forward to our discussion today. Really wanted to talk about one of the more rare condition wizard gems, I would say, that are out there on the Thinkorswim platform, specifically within ThinkScript that we can utilize with the condition wizard. It's really kind of taking a look at really an extreme measure of an indicator, one that looks specifically at trend strength. It does give a lot of different kind of ideas in terms of what's moving in the markets as well. So there's a lot of information we can gather from it as we look at it as well. So with that though, would love to welcome all of you. We'll dive into that in just a second. But hello to you, Ray. We've got Paul Rocky Raccoon coming to us live from PA, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Rocky. We've got David Trezell. We've got Sharon, Scott, and Chris B. Hello to all of you, fellow traders, investors. Great to have you on board. With that, we do have a good friend of mine and a really good colleague, JB, in the chat. That is James Boyd. I believe James did present earlier today. Great to have James here. It's always a privilege to have him on board. Very knowledgeable about the topic, fundamentals and technicals. Of course, he teaches a number of those classes. Folks, you can follow us too on X. James Boyd, you want to spell that exactly as I stated it, without any spaces. James Boyd CS for Charles Schwab, as well as Mike Fairborn CS. Love to have you on board there if you're not already. But with that, let's dive on into some disclosures to get the show on the road here. All right, information here is for general information purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation or personalized investment advice. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as sole means of investment research. Paper money software application that we'll be utilizing today is for educational purposes only. Now, back testing, which we do in this class from time to time, those results presented are hypothetical, and there is no guarantee that the same strategy implemented today would produce similar results going forward. Past performance of any security strategy does not guarantee future results or success. A quick view of some of the futures disclosures there. We do reference futures from time to time in this class, although we do not trade them. We've got a separate class or classes for that, just to be mindful of. All right. Well, in terms of our agenda, I tell you what, we're going to hit this one more time because we like to discuss this. We think it's interesting, especially if you've never seen this before. And that's really our key driver. If you're not familiar with ThinkScripting, we are using computer code or a computer language, ThinkScript, to identify the goal of what we're trying to do. Okay. This is scripting, right? We're looking at a goal. And what we've talked about in this class pretty regularly is utilizing indicators. So specific indicators out there that might be showing us signs of, overbought, oversold, crossovers, certain high value levels or low value levels, whatever the case might be. It's not too difficult to utilize an existing indicator using ThinkScript. And what's nice about that too is we can tap into the condition wizard. I have built the code today separately for you. We are going to be looking at a certain aspect of the Arun oscillator, the Arun indicator, where there are a lot of different indications you can get from it, but we want to try to find a scan where it's giving us the highest sort of read in terms of strength of trend. There's a lot of different ways to read it, just like you'd find with any indicator. But maybe what is the most rare, oftentimes it's the most rare, but maybe one of the more stronger ways to use an indicator. I want to tap into that today as we go through it. Now, I do want to outline some of the steps to the script. We're going to apply some of the ThinkScript tools. We're going to go through this. I'm going to show you the written script I've got. We're going to share that. In addition, within today's class, we're going to start off with just utilizing some of our past indicators and showing you what's really moving out in the market right now and how some of these indicators might be picking up on some of those signs. I want to highlight a few of those example type stocks just to see what we're thinking about in that regard. All right. So that's just kind of what we do in this class. Many of you are familiar with it, and I recognize many of your names. Great to have you all back. Okay. Let's take a look at just briefly, super briefly, because this might be your fourth or fifth time of saying the market today. But yes, we are upwards at or right near all-time highs. We broke above this range here, still extending higher. One thing I have been showing everybody, and you guys are pretty, I would say in this class, probably most adept to technical analysis because many of you are getting into the coding, the language. And so what I wanted to point out is something a little bit more in depth. I do show it in some of the other classes too from time to time. But if you come up top into style up here, if you're looking for a roadmap as to where the market might follow, indicators can help us with that. Of course, different sector analysis, etc. can too. But under style, just scoot on down to chart mode standard, go to seasonality right there. Very interesting. What we can do, I'm just going to pair this up quickly. I'm going to go ahead and go to a price axis to make it more comparable, show as a percentage. So we're making these comparable. This red line right here, that is the S&P 500 over the last 5 years. Now, what I'm going to do, let's give a little bit more data to it. That's the average price move. If you combine the last, well, let's put in 10 years here. The last 10 years, it looks very similar. Folks, I can go to 20 years. It's going to look very, very similar. This is kind of the motion or the movement of the markets over extended periods of time. This is what it looks like when I say market, S&P 500 specifically. But where we're at right now is really kind of in one of those stronger phases of, on average, the year, and that is July. The first couple of weeks are extremely, oftentimes, on average, the key word is average, extremely strong. We're falling right into that right now with these moves. You notice one other thing too. The slope of the move might change in terms of the magnitude of the S&P 500, but we also still, it might be a smaller slope, but we do tend, on average, to run to the end of July. Okay. Sometimes this is referred to as the summer rally. We've done some ThinkScripting on this. We might tap into that later into the next following few weeks. But just to know where that's at again, so you recognize it, just style, seasonality. I'm under, okay, seasonality is the chart mode as opposed to standard there. Okay, that's how you find it. It can be a really cool roadmap. Again, this is made up of 10 different years to get this data, but what is fascinating is it tends to follow this kind of pattern. Where are we at now? We're up 7.09% on the year. Is that ahead of schedule? It is. In fact, we're normally up about 5.64. I'm just pointing to it. I could be off, a little bit, but there we go. 5.6, let's just say that. Ahead of schedule, despite this, well, I'm going to call it what it is. I would call this, folks, a massive chasm there. It's a chasm. It's a crater. What do you want to call it? Yeah, it's like an asteroid hit it. It's deep, and that's all about T for short. That would be the tariffs within the S&P. But we came out of that strong. And remember, there could be an upside if, in fact, we are on a better playing field with tariffs after the fact, which I know is the goal. We'll see how that all works out. But so far, so good. We're right at new highs, on the S&P and NASDAQ as well. Okay, so that's my overview. Went a little bit longer, but hey, I wanted to point out that seasonality because we're just right there at it. Okay, so some other things before we get into this simple condition wizard that can be a gem for trading trend strength. Before we do that, let's talk about what we're also seeing out there in the market in terms of, another indicator that we've used previously, and that's going to be the TTM squeeze. This is interesting because we saw a lot of price compression recently. We've done a number of classes on the TTM squeeze. We've done the reloaded, we've done the squeeze, we've done squeeze bars. This is where the Bollinger Band sneaks below the Keltner channel, identifying a really core level of low price volatility or price compression. We've got it listed down here. I'm going to go ahead and just adjust that real quick. There we go. And let's scoot on down to the TTM squeeze. I'm just going to simply take off the histogram, show plot right there, and leave this in as an indication of green dots and red dots. And the red dot is when we are in a very, very, very tight range. And you'll notice over here with this particular stock, have we been in this for a little while? We have. Does this map out possibly? Well, it's a technology company. Technology's been quite strong. This might be a laggard in the group actually, but take a look over here with me. If you look at some of these companies, they've run up and they've gone sideways. Now we've talked about how some traders will look at price patterns. This pattern is pretty clearly I would say through the lens of many investors, that would be a bull flag pattern. Now, has it broken out yet? No, it hasn't taken out, let's say, this high range. I know we had a lot of extra volatility around earnings here, but you'll notice we are in that compression phase, which matches very, very nicely with the flag portion of a move, right? In other words, we get the volatility really expanding right here in the price in the upward move, but then on the sideways range, we get kind of what you'd love to see, a lot less selling pressure and prices really holding their range. Okay, could that be setting up for the possibility of a move to the upside? Well, it might be. And what might a trader do? There's a number of different things. There's an easy thing to do right off the platform, though. If I'm just taking this daily range, I'm going to use this last prior high where we actually closed above this range. I'm going to just right click, scoot on down to create an alert. And I'm going to say at or above this level. I'm just going to say breakout question mark. This just could be a laggard. It's technology. Technology's done really well, but this guy is still hanging out in its flag range. Now, what you can do is you can go up into the setup up top here, application settings. You guys are very adept at this, but click on notifications. You can put in your text number. You can put in your email, have it text you about 3 to 5 seconds. Now, I'm going to put in James's number here so it can text him and then he can call me and let me know that it broke out. Okay, that's what a real friend would do for me, right, James? All right. All right. I can always count on James. Hey, but I'm just kidding. No, but that would text you pretty quick. I've been in these for 2 to 3 years and boom, I get a signal. Folks, 3 to 5 seconds, I'm notified of it. So it can be fascinating. Anyways, there are some others out there too, and it can really help spot where there might be a compression zone out there. Take a look. MET. Are you seeing a flag out there? This guy's been in there for a little while. This is MetLife. So insurance, I'm going to go right over here. Look at that. That's been out there 20 bars. That doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it can be interesting. If we look back over here, you can kind of see too. Look at this. So see, this was in a compression zone. And you get a breakout. We're going to look at some breakouts here in just a second. But hey, again, maybe at a support level could be of interest to some traders. I mean, I'm seeing support there. Let's just draw this line right through there. Come on, baby. There we go. Right there. Yep. Oh, I had to go all the way back. There's a lot actually there. Now, could somebody be waiting for maybe a hold right there? The whole idea is notice that this range over here was not red. And why is that? We've got price compression. It's just another indication that prices could be building, but notice they're building within a price pattern. So yeah, these are things that some traders, could keep an eye on for sure. Let's go AWK as well. Sort of a longer term consolidation. This is almost maybe even geared towards even a weekly. There it is. Okay, so you can see it a lot better if you look at weekly bars. Some of these companies, this is a Waterworks company. I don't know a ton about Waterworks on a fundamental basis, but here you go. Look at this. It comes up here, consolidation. Could it break out? Well, it could. If it did, that would be a flag pattern. It looks like it might be kind of setting up for that now. And you can actually see, even on a weekly basis, we've had what down here? Compression, price compression. And kind of fits interesting in terms of could it really start to get moving here? Those are some interesting days. I don't know. There could be a rotation out of maybe some of the tech stocks that could do something, that could move, a company like this. Let's hit another one that could fall in line with tariffs. It is not Caterpillar. You'll notice that CAT did go into this for a couple of days. It wasn't long enough. It was a kind of a shorter term move. This is one that we've been tracking in a couple of classes. It had a pretty good breakout. But the other one that's really been holding up is John Deere. But if you look at John Deere, it took out prior highs. Think of tariffs over here. Think of building up manufacturing companies in the U.S. Think of farming equipment as opposed to Caterpillar, which is more a construction type of equipment. You still seeing the flag? It's really compressing in here, kind of adding to that potential theme, right? Let's draw another line up top. This is really kind of a long consolidation, almost more like that weekly flag as well, a larger term move. And we just got out of the gates a little bit today. I'm going to do this Again, right click, because I do want to know, because there could be a pretty extended move if in fact it does go higher. Let's pull it down here. Look at this. Look at this. Let's draw this out. That's the flag up here. Consolidation, we use the same price range and we add that price range. I'm just eyeballing it here, folks, but it's about, well, it's about 400 and, I don't know, excuse me, 140 points, let's say 125 points, whatever. So you go, there you go. So maybe somewhere up here if it were to break out. But very interesting sign because a lot of traders do focus in on that price compression playing such a key role, especially over a long period of time. You showed 17. Interesting, Paul. I'm clicking right there. It counts the exact same day, as you can see. There's DE, right? We're looking at the same one. Pull it over. Oh, what did I say? You're right. Was I looking at a different one? Maybe I was. I might have been looking at the one right before, but this, you're right. It is 17. So we're on the same page. Okay, good. All right. Last one in terms of that, TECH. Some of you do like bottom patterns. Some of you like more of the bottom structure as opposed to the topping, you know, the trend already coming up. Do you see a bottom here? This is almost one of the classic, we'll see how it unfolds, but it's like a classic bottom in terms of what they refer to as a rounded bottom. Do you see it rounding? Rounding, 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 rounding. This is what gave us that signal. This is how I tracked it with the indicator that we created. I'm going to show you where you can find that at here too in just a second. But notice what else we're doing right there? Boom, right there. We are taking out previous highs. Right there. Could this be the start of a change? What do these guys do? Hold up one second. It's not a tech stock. It certainly isn't. It is okay, life sciences. So this is in the healthcare group mainly, right? In the healthcare. But sort of a fascinating chart that we're finding using indicators, previous indicators that we have utilized in this class. So let me just do this real quick so you can, I want to show you that one, that class where we talked about, if in fact, if you're interested in, viewing it, you can view many of these just right here in our Trader Talks, pull that guy up, that is, there we go, Trader Talks channel, oh, wrong one, sorry, just a second. Our channel is right there. Just misclicked on it right there. There's our live class going on. But right here under the playlists, if you click on the playlist, you can come down here. Swing trading. Let's just go think script. Probably down towards the bottom. There it is, right here. So if I click on this, we've got a whole list of the classes we've talked about. And you can see right down here, we could end up doing another one on it. But this is one of them we talked about right there. The squeeze breakout, if that's of interest to you. And, well, there are some others in there as well. But, yeah, I'll put this list into the chat if that's of interest to you. Folks, if you're finding value from these kinds of presentations, and by the way, we're just using other scripts that we've used in this class, right, previously. We're looking at those stocks that might be showing signs that traders would look at, combining them with different other indicators, combining them with chart patterns, even fundamental news. I mean, what's going on with a company that could be potentially rounding, having a rounding bottom, showing some strength off the bottom, right? So tap into that if you're interested. And if you are finding value, do me a favor, just smash that like button. Love to have you subscribe as well. Just hit the subscribe button too. I think many of you probably have already subscribed, but just an invitation to do so if you haven't already. All right, well, let's do this. One of the scripts that we did do also looked at those companies that have just begun to come out of the red. And so in other words, it turns into green. Notice off the bottom here, there was price expansion as we got into the green. Oh, that was the actual lows of this potential rounded bottom. Look at this over here, just using what we looked at before. ORLY, think of car parts right now. Companies that sell car parts for some reason, or just an automotive. These guys sell car parts, obviously, but this group has been interestingly quite strong. That was not the trend line I was after. It was something like this. You can see we took out that trend line and we're just barely starting to go up higher. Guys, gals, this has been down 1, 2, 3 months. The high was actually in April, and we're just starting to get going now. So could this be a longer term flag? What do you see down here? Are we getting any confirmation of prices starting to expand right now? We just kicked out of it. This guy, Paul, how long was this in? Let's see. I'm going to click right there on my red. We were in there for an extended time, really a long time, 24 bars. Something you might find on a weekly flag pattern, really, if you're looking at daily data, but to stick in there that long, that's interesting. And we're just starting to break out right now. 24 bars, you just don't see that happen very often at all. Okay, so that would be one. There's one, two, let's see, VMC, Vulcan Materials. Material stocks have been quite interesting as well, as you can see right over here. Look at the Vulcan Materials right here, folks. As you can see, that's coming out of a flag, maybe? There's the flag right there. A lot of strength in here. One thing you might see with materials that is so interesting, and if I go over here, I'll pull this up right now and pull it up on my sector grid. Look over here with me on this S&P 500 index for materials. Materials is one where you might see some of the growth, the strength, you should say, from growth or tech type stocks, kind of move on over into a couple areas. Materials might be one if it rotates, because look at materials. We're just actually starting to break out right now. Boy, we've been flat for a long time. Also, discretionary, keep that in mind. Okay, moving on back, I've got a couple more to show you in this regard. Let's hit this, and let's see, we've got VBH, Zimmer Holdings, another healthcare type stock. Now, with healthcare, look at this. The money flow line is very, very rare. We've looked at divergences on money flow in terms of a script. Wow, prices coming down, money flow going up. Now, that doesn't happen too often. That is a major positive divergence. And people will refer to this as a double, triple, quadruple double divergence. Notice you're making a new low here as you're making highs. You're making a new low here as you're making highs. You're making a new low here as you're making highs. Wow, a triple divergence, a triple positive divergence there. And this too, if we combine it with that TTM squeeze, let me go ahead and just make that adjustment to it right there. Take off the histogram so we could just see our signs. It's just coming out right now. So also more of that classic type of double bottom pattern. Move down here, look at the consolidation within that low. Once you hit that major low, consolidation, just similar lows at that point. What does that tell you? The trend, the strength of that trend is slowing. And now we're starting to take out some highs here right now, just as the TTM, the Bollinger Band, is starting to move back up above the Keltner channel. Okay, let's hit one more, and then we'll go on and into our discussion today. There is Merck. What do you see here? I see a very, very long downward sloping trend that just today, as we began to break above highs, we certainly cleared. In fact, I'm going to right click here and extend that drawing to the right. You can see we took it out maybe last week, took out those highs. And what's fascinating about that is I don't even know how far back this guy goes because it's off our chart here. Okay, way far. This, the high point, we have not broken the slope of that downward sloping trend line. That's June of last year. So over a year, we've been trending lower, basically trending lower, below that slope. And we just barely hit it at the end of June. So that's like a solid year. Oh, okay, I'd say it's a solid year down. And we're just getting above there. Also kind of like a classic bottom. And this one may fall more to the category of an inverted head and shoulder. Shoulder, folks. Head, shoulder again. What do we look at when we're looking at the head and shoulders pattern? Well, a neckline break. And this neckline, try to draw this, is maybe somewhere through there. Notice the long-term trend line and that neckline. Boom, right there. Same place. Okay, that was the last one. Merck's been down for a while. I think they've still been raising that dividend. Again, by the way, dividend paying stocks can cut the dividend at any time. I'm sure you all know that, but it's been down for so long. What on earth is that yield at? I'm just dying to know. Okay, very close to 4%, but 3.8 right now as it stands. So that's probably a very, very high yield and some signs here. So using some of the indicators and some of the scans that we've come up with, we're able to tap into this, right? And by the way, there is a survey link in the chat. If you get a chance to fill that out, that'd be fantastic. If there's anything you like or find valuable, you can mark that in there. You can state anything you want. There's just 2 questions and a topic, a place where you can mention, I should say, anything about the webcast. My manager reads those, and I do too. If you're able to do that, all right, great. With that, let's get moving into a different indicator, the one we really want to talk about today. Something we haven't done before, but something that's so nice that we can put actually on the chart, but use the condition wizard to help us find sort of a maximum value for the Arun at its highest levels. I'm going to explain to you how this indicator works a little bit. I do not use the oscillator. I'm going to use the indicator here. I'm going to put it on right now. This is the standard default at 25. Let's put it on and let's start talking about it. In fact, I'm just going to kill the RSI for now. Now, this is all about trend strength, okay, is what it looks for. And it has a knack of finding trend strength. Now, a quick note on this indicator as you're looking at it here. The indicator itself is really quite interesting. It doesn't focus in on price momentum like oscillators. And oscillators will really tend to lag. Instead, it's time-based. And the default is 25 bars. And what it does is it helps traders identify potential changes in trend. It doesn't reference price to time. It flips that equation upside down and says, let's look at time relative to price. Okay? A few different ways traders will use this. First of all, they'll say down here, when I get the upline trading above the down line, that's a signal. Okay? That's what they'll say is a signal. Now, one of the things, this could be used that way, but you'll notice, did it signal strength? Well, not exactly. I mean, we did consolidate right after that point. That's one approach. There's also these overbought, let's see, OB and OS, oversold areas on the chart at 70 and 30, overbought and oversold. Some traders will say, hey, if I'm above here or below here on the downline, that could be, positive. It shows weakness to the downside if the red is below 30, strength to the upside if our light blue line is above that level. So there's a whole host of ways to read this indicator. But if we're trying to maximize and maybe even find where this doesn't happen as much, is where we're looking at absolute strength, the highest levels of strength. Now, I just had Merck up here. I'm going to put up any old chart we can look at. Here is one that actually does come up on our search for right now. Okay, what we're really kind of focusing in on here, when we're looking at absolute weaknesses, the first signs of indication. Now, I'll look at weakness first because it can give you signs in either way, and this is going to be kind of interesting to look at. We had a downtrend here. Notice you get the red maximizing right at 100. Conversely, you also get at the bottom right here the up maximizing in its own way right at 0. So you got 0, you've got 100 here. When these two are at extremes, what we're really playing off on here is that the low cycle should be, in other words, a move to the downside should be at its highest kind of probability or expectation according to the Arun indicator, and the strength should be at its lowest. That's what we're kind of focusing in on here. Now, what some traders will do is they will look over here and say, well, what about this, Mike? Well, that was at the high level. You're right. There's no doubt that was maximized at 100, and it can stay at 100 for weeks. This is kind of a strong indication. Okay, what happened? We went flat. one of the key reasons as to why, if we look at just using the indicator, you see what's kind of parallel to that indicator? The red. The red is nowhere near zero. It's down here that it makes the most sense. You're getting extremes on both ends. Highest probability of the upside, lowest of the downside, or vice versa, right? Whether you're looking out the other end, right? And there was your move. And you did start to see some weakness after that. There was something coming into that in terms of the trend, looking at time relative to price. Okay. Now, looking over here, I just want to show you this. For LYB, we've been sitting at 100 for maybe 2-3 bars now. 100. That's the up Arun. Where's the down Arun? It's right there. This shows core strength. And notice also, because we don't want to ever forget this, but what are we also doing? We're breaking above a range. Now, this spotted this move. It wasn't the TTM squeeze. It wasn't money flow necessarily, or other indications that spotted it, but it was trend strength using this sort of highest level that you'll see on the Arun that comes up. It's most rare for sure. Okay, most of the time when you're seeing one up here, you're seeing the other one just parallel right next to it. It's when they're at two extreme ends. Okay, that's a key point. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you this right now as we look at this Arun. These are the levels as I look at the description here. So you've got the up and the down. Those are the different colors that are set up. The overbought, oversold are set up at that 70 and 30. That is our default, a length of 20 right there. Now we can take something like this and we can actually create a scan. We can do that right over here. Let's put this in the condition wizard. Finding that core extreme level. I'm going to go to study and let's click on our drop down here, our little pen, and let's get this drawn in. So what we want to do right now is we're going to use the condition wizard initially. I'll show you how this is done. All right, so what we want to do first, we're going to go into study. So it's simply a study we're looking at and at a specific level or range. Arun right here. Now we've got to select the top one, Arun indicator. We're looking at the up plot and we're saying that it's greater than or equal to a value in this case, level of value of 100. We want to see it currently at that bar right now. So let's go ahead and click on save. So what that just did is that gave us that upper range, right? The up Arun at 100. But to avoid the parallel line coming through, right? So you might have one at the top, but our red line or whatever the case might be, whatever color we've have it as, this line might be at the high, but the bottom is not at the low level. Okay, the bottom one. So, or the down Arun. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment right now. So let's add that condition. Let's pop in over here. Let's say study. I'm going to go ahead and type in Arun again. We're using the same indicator. We want to say, in this case, less than or equal to, what was the value? Now we could put over here 0. I've run into some issues by putting a 0 in. It likes to say a 1. 0, for some reason, there can be some issues with the code, but if you just say a value of 0, so it looks at it as being like a negative, but you can say 1 or less, right? And what did I do? Less than or equal to 1. Now there's one key thing we have to remember in here. We're using 2 lines. And anytime you're using a study, make sure that you plot that study with exactly what it is you're after, because it's really easy to forget this part and then just jump over here and set up those values. You absolutely have to go into the plot and the drop down here and then select down. We're looking at the down indication to be at that lower range. Save. Now we've got it. We can click OK and we can run this. We can scan this right now. Oh, I don't want consumer discretionary. So that is how we set this up. Now I've created this too, where you can add to it the indicator as well. Let me pull this up right now here for you as well. But that is a condition wizard approach, very quick. And like I said, it hits a very, very rare event out there, but not too bad to do, right? So straightforward. I've created this scan just with some of the ThinkScript code already. I just have Arun top levels. You'll notice that it's going to look a little bit different right here. Let's pull it up. Really, really straightforward though. Take a look at what we've got. Setting up a code like this, we have our original definition. We're using the Arun indicator and we're using the up. Here is the down. We're also defining the up hit, which is what I refer to as hitting the upside. That's the Arun up. So it references our Arun indicator to the upside, and that's going to be equal to 100. I want the top number for sure. I said greater than or equal to 100, right, on the other one. But in this case, we're just at simply 100. There is nothing greater than 100. It only goes to 100. Now, in terms of our down hit, right, referencing that, we're going to define that as the equals to the Arun down. We're referencing the down indicator. We're saying less than or equal to 1. We're going to plot the scan in here when the up hit and the down hit both occur. Very, very straightforward, very easy to get us something so quick. Let's go ahead and chart. Let's take a look initially first at the NDX. In fact, let me just share it first so you have it. Okay, and a quick note when we share these, the scripts aren't guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy. Put that right in there for you, and I will have that in our description field for those of you that are just joining us on the recorded session. Want to make sure you have that. But yeah, so we want to, I just want to note that they're not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy, but as long as the data is coming through accurately, then it should plot it correctly here for us. Okay, so I've shared that with you guys. You know where to find it. You know how to add it in now, right? Let us know if you have any questions on that. There we go. They're in total right now. That's the 500. Let's look at the NDX first. I wanted to do that. The NASDAQ, we're not going to have nearly as many here. I would guarantee you right there. It works very nicely in terms of what we're trying to do. But this is one of the key things I wanted to highlight here. If it helps us to see maximum strength in the market using time relative to price instead of the other way around, like nearly all the other indicators, what is it telling us? Where is the real core strength in the market? Something very nice to have. I've tracked this for quite a little while here, and I've noticed that it does tend to give us some really interesting sector, or in this case, sub-industry strength. Semiconductors, folks, that's the key theme for today. Semis all the way down, right? And you can see those right there. Let's just pull up a couple of these right now just to kind of highlight them as we look at it. But let's just say, so on semiconductor, you've got actually one in here too. That's actually a real estate group. But let's look at a few of these. Let's do with ON and KLAC. ON right now. Okay, so look at the strength here. Now think about trading the trend. Think about the continuation of the trend of the upside. If you're getting that kind of strength, which we're seeing right there, the scan worked perfectly, gave us exactly what we're after, flatlined at 0 on the down, flatlined at 100 on the up. Strength, keep in mind, higher highs and higher lows, that trend, we're seeing some really interesting strength here. Could that strength be as strong as to follow through? Let's say, for example, on the weekly charts. What are we getting here? This has been down for a while. Could this be a longer term reversal? KLAC. Oh, this is an interesting point. Just thinking of weeklies. We've got it right over here. That's a 2-year chart. I'm going to go back to our 1-year chart. You can see what's interesting about this is we just broke above a longer term range. We just took out some highs in here. Now, some of these semiconductors have been down, but this group is showing extreme strength according to the Arun oscillator indicator. Let's take a look at the weekly. It just took out highs at 900. Now, I know that's a big number, but we've been down for quite some time. So is it identifying weekly breakouts? It is, but that's not all it's doing. It's showing us that there's strength within that trend. So this might not just be, for somebody that uses the Arun, just an average break above weekly highs, which could be interesting to check out by itself, but it's saying there's some core strength within that trend. What was the other one on? Oh yeah, see, this has been down for a while. We're just barely taking out this longer term 50 period moving average. Well, I mean, yeah, we are. Sometimes we use that. I use that in my markets and sectors class for sectors because sometimes when you get above the 50 on a weekly basis, you can, well, sometimes there can be, like I said, extended runs over there too. So extreme levels in that group. We kind of expect that because we're talking about technology here. I'm going to get a quick switch up and get a bigger basket of stocks for sure in the S&P. We already knew there was about 23 that popped up there. Let's look at some of these that came through. Yeah, you can see that it's kind of a mixed bag, isn't it? Just exactly what we wanted to see. So there's a couple companies that I didn't know. Okay, so let's go ahead and look over here at those. I'm going to move back to our daily chart. This was the first stock we looked at, LYB, bottom type formation with, according to the Arun, extreme trend strength, and that would be extreme bullish trend strength. As an example, these are just example trades here. CSGP also came up on that list. Breakout. Flag pattern. There could be more to it in terms of the flag right there. Sometimes, too, you kind of break out, kind of consolidate a little bit. We don't know if that'll happen. There is an earnings event right there to be mindful of, no doubt. But that's a long range, really. I mean, that goes back pretty far. And we just took it out with, well, strongest price moves that are out there in terms of for the Arun. What else do we have? TSCO. Okay. It's been sideways for a very long time. What are we getting on the weekly here? Okay, so maybe the possibility of a longer term weekly flag pattern on that one. Ben was one. Ben had been down. Gosh, this has been down. This is a dividend aristocrat. I don't know if it still is, but this company had been down for, wow, I mean, that's 10 years. Okay, that's 2016. I'm seeing downward trends for a while here, but you can see over here, we're just getting like this long-term weekly 2-year downward sloping trend line going higher. For some of those dividend players out there, this could be, potentially of interest as well. All right. So with all those in mind, I want to go back and just look at that let's do this. So CSGP breaking out above that range. I'm going to just put on a couple of paper money trades just to keep tabs on for this class, and we'll see how they do follow through in terms of a break. Now, I realize this is not the ideal time. Maybe yesterday would have been the ideal break, but it could be an extended move. We don't know. I'm just going to put this in as an example, just so we can track this trade, okay? That's all we're doing here, folks. So let's put this in, and I'll just put a purchase order in. We can look at some of the others in just a little bit, but it is at 85. Confirm. There's our dialog box. We'll click on send there, send that guy on through. The other one that we looked at kind of previously was one that was sort of breaking out already. That was ORLY. This was using the TTM squeeze. Want to look at that one. We'll see if some of these auto parts can kind of kick in gear here and get going. But let's put although this is not the Arun, this was based on the TTM squeeze. We use different kinds of scenarios. It very well might be that you get an Arun signal after you've taken out these highs, and the TTM might be ahead of the curve a little bit, perhaps. Looking at different indications, but I'll click on this right now. And with 15 minutes left to go in the trading day, we'll go ahead and put another one under our belt right there. I clicked on that kind of fast, but always it's important to look at the dialog box and confirm the entry. This is basically an identical one. Just wanted to show you guys that. All right, folks. Well, if you found value, smash that like button. It was good being with you today. Appreciate JB being in the chat to help out. Folks, this is what we do in this class. So we'll utilize prior scripts that we've written in the market watch section. We'll also do scans. We'll do indicators in this class, and we'll try to introduce new concepts as well, like we did today with the Arun. I hope you found that informative and useful, and you can use in your trading and investing. So with that, everybody have a fantastic rest of the day. See you next time.